some political parties. Ali, maybe you might just talk with the ambassador separately about, because I don't have the names here with me. I think it's always important, and I mean, part of my work when I visit countries, it's not just to talk with government, but also to talk with opposition parties. I think that is part of, to get a full understanding of what the thinking is in the country. I had a very good meeting with them. I really appreciated the perspectives that they gave me. They were different, some of them, different political parties. I was leader of a political party in my own country, so I understand how it works. But it's certainly, I think it's important. I think that political parties, and I think that the leaderships of the political parties have a very challenging role to play. It's difficult in any conflict situation for political dialogue to take place, and it's difficult for political leaders to lead that dialogue, particularly when tensions are high and when emotions are understandably high. And that's why I think it is really important that the space that exists now for people to talk with each other, for dialogue, and I think it's important that dialogue is as wide as possible. That I didn't meet with the Commission formally, but I did meet with some members of the Commission.
About the foreign ministers meeting.
Hold on. You had three questions and one. I want to go around the table.
Thank you very much. I'm Halilia from Addis Media Network. As you have mentioned before, you have been saying that you are working with the Ethiopian government for the humanitarian assistance in the Tigray region, and the Ethiopian government has, saying that the government is working with many international organizations in order to sustain humanitarian aid for Tigray. But there is a saying from the Ethiopian government, there are many cars which are for humanitarian assistance, but these cars they didn't return back to Addis Ababa. So what is your saying here?
Well, first of all, the humanitarian assistance that we're talking about is not confined to Tigray. We're looking at humanitarian needs, I think, in many different parts of the country. We're very, very mindful of that. We are glad that the humanitarian ceasefire has been agreed. That will should make it easier to have access and to be able to deliver what the humanitarian need is. But as often happens in these situations, something can be agreed at a high level, and then when you look at what is happening on the ground, the reality on the ground is not matching it. And we found that we had continuing difficulties in delivering humanitarian assistance. We've talked with the government about those difficulties. We've identified for them what the difficulties are, and as I said earlier, we're hopeful that those difficulties will be resolved. Because I think the delivery of humanitarian assistance is not something that can be postponed. Food, medical supplies, essential, what's essentially needed for infrastructure. These are not things that can wait. So I'm hopeful. I don't want to. We had good discussions on this, both with government and with the humanitarian agencies, and I'm hopeful that the problems will be resolved. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Kalam from Ethiopian Reporter. As government official repeatedly says that the funds Ethiopia were getting from European Union is seized because of the war, and they claim that the seize of the funds is creating another humanitarian crisis in the country. So what is your comment on that, and have you discussed this issue with the officials? And the another question is, it's a follow-up to the response you gave to my colleague here. What do you get out of your meeting with peoples from Tigray region?
Well, first of all, the humanitarian assistance that we are providing has not been stopped. We are continuing to provide humanitarian assistance and are willing to do that. We just want the obstacles that are in the way lifted. It is true that the development cooperation that we have with Ethiopia, because of the conflict situation, has been put on hold. Areas of cooperation, including areas of financial support, have been put on hold. We are looking at that. We will have a meeting of the foreign ministers of the 27 member states, and meet as the Foreign Affairs Council of the European Union. And they will have a meeting in June where they will look at the situation in Ethiopia, and will look at the whole issue of re-engagement and how that might be done. The report that I will provide to the High Representative arising from this visit will form part of that discussion and of that consideration, and I don't want to prejudge what the foreign ministers will decide. But the three areas that they will be looking at will be the humanitarian area, the national dialogue, and what is being done to bring about a lasting peace, and thirdly, what is being done on accountability for the human rights violations. And on the, I didn't have, if I gave the impression that I had some formal official engagement with Tigray, that wasn't the case, but I have met people from Tigray. I think the question was, had I met people from Tigray, and I have, but I haven't had formal meetings with Tigray, and obviously I didn't visit Tigray during this visit. Sorry, I missed you.
Okay. Maybe what solution do you suggest regarding to improve the humanitarian situation, not only in Tigray, over the country, and also regarding with the accountability of reporters? Does the EU have a trust issue or concerns on reporters released by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch the last part of the question.
Regarding with the accountability of reporters, does the EU have a trust issue on reporters released by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission?
Okay. Well, first of all, on the humanitarian situation, I mean, we are aware, and I think everybody is aware, that there is a very serious humanitarian situation in many different parts of the country. The figure that I have heard is that the total number of people who are in need in the country, in need of humanitarian assistance, is around 30 million people. That is a very large number of people. Some of that obviously is due to the conflict situation, but we're also conscious that the impact of climate, and in particular the drought conditions, can compound that. And also I think the economic situation, the inflation, rate of inflation, and the challenges that is posing for families. We are the European Union. When I talk about the European Union, I'm not just talking about the offices in Brussels. I'm talking about all of the 27 member states. So when you take it all together, we are the largest humanitarian donor in the world. We want to make a contribution. It can be no more than that. We can't make it all go away, but we are willing to make a contribution to the humanitarian effort in Ethiopia. And I think our main concern is to move aside some of the obstacles that we have encountered in doing that. But again, as I said earlier, I talked about this in considerable detail with ministers over the past couple of days, and I'm hopeful that by the time the foreign ministers of the 27 member states of the European Union meet in June, that these problems will be resolved, and that we'll be able to move on.
Maybe the last question.
What was the last question? Oh, yes, I do remember. I'm sorry. I asked it twice. No, the issue of, we supported the joint investigation by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and the Office of the High Commissioner. We've accepted the report. We're pleased that that report has been, I think, generally accepted, including by the government of Ethiopia. I think the issue now is implementing the recommendations of that report and ensuring that there is follow-up on it. And again, that is what we have been talking about, because that is, again, when the 27 foreign ministers sit down to look at this. I mean, their question would be, well, yes, the report, that was a great report and it was done, and the recommendation, but what has actually been done to implement the recommendations? And that was part of the discussion I've had over the last couple of days. Yes.
Okay, thank you. As you all know, a lot of stress or concern is given to the crisis in Tigray, but nowadays there is a conflict and a crisis in the Oromia region, which really needs an equal concern. So have you tried talking about that? Are there any concerns regarding the crisis in Oromia region?
The conflict everywhere in the country should end. Fighting and war brings nothing but suffering and grief and misery. And eventually, and I've seen this in conflicts